Hey, what's up, everybody? As you know, this summer at FloWrestling, we're trying to figure out the best wrestler of the last 25 years at all 10 NCAA weight classes. And this week, we got a doozy for you. It's 165 pounds. But before we get into it, we'll explain how we came up with the best wrestler at all 10 weight classes. First, our internal FloWrestling team ranked who we thought were the top 4 at each weight. We added up all those votes, came up with the top 4, and then we presented it to you guys, the wrestling fans, to weigh in and get a vote to decide who is the top wrestler at each NCAA weight class. And like I said, 165 pounds. It was hard. It was probably the hardest weight class that we've had to deal with so far. And if I'm a betting man, I think it's going to be the hardest one we have to deal with of all 10 weight classes because this weight, insanely deep. 165 pounds. There were 5 different two-time NCAA champs that didn't even make it into the top 4. This is a stacked weight, and it was brutal to rank all the way down to the end. Let's get into it. And first, let's start off with the guys at 165 that didn't even make the cut and didn't even make the top 4. First guy I want to talk about is an Iowa State legend, Joe Heskett. Now, everybody knows Cael Sanderson, 4-time NCAA champ. He's the greatest college wrestler of all time. Well, going into the NCAA tournament, Cael's freshman year, it wasn't clear who the best freshman was for the Cyclones because Joe Heskett, like Cael Sanderson, went into that tournament as an undefeated number 1 seed. Now, Heskett did end up losing in that NCAA tournament, but went on to be an absolute beast. Heskett was an NCAA champ, a 3-time NCAA finalist, and just an absolute stud for the Cyclones at 165. Another guy we got to talk about who's closely connected with Joe Heskett is Donnie Pritzloff. He's a 2-time NCAA champ. He actually beat Joe Heskett twice in overtime in the NCAA finals. Absolute legend for the Wisconsin Badgers, current head coach at Columbia. Would normally be in the top 4 at just about any weight class, but 165 is just that deep. Troy Letters for Lehigh had an unfortunate end to his career. He finished his career with an injury, but in his first 3 years, he finished 2nd, 1st, and 3rd for the Mountain Hawks. He was 97-4, absolute beast. Troy Letters gotta be on this list in most weights, but again, 165 just too deep. Johnny Hendricks of Oklahoma State was a 3-time NCAA finalist. Everybody thought he was going to be a 3-time champ. He only got to win the 2, and we'll talk about the reason that he only won 2 in a little bit. But Johnny Hendricks, one of the best Cowboys of all time, was a 4-time NCAA All-American, 2-time champ, 3-time finalist. Johnny Hendricks didn't make the cut. Another 4-time All-American, 2-time champ, 3-time finalist. It's Mark Perry. Mark Perry is the guy that kept Johnny Hendricks from winning his 3rd NCAA title. Mark Perry from Stillwater, Oklahoma, but then famously wrestled for the Iowa Hawkeyes. It was a controversial move at the time, but it worked out well for him. Mark Perry, incredible career. By the way, when he beat Johnny Hendricks in the finals, that was after having lost to him 6 straight times. He got it done. That was a big part of why he's such a legend at 165 and made a big impact on this weight class in the last quarter century. Andrew Howe spent most of his career at the Wisconsin Badgers, finished it out at Oklahoma. He was another 4-time All-American, finishing 3rd or better every single year. Made the finals 3 times. He was an NCAA champ. Andrew Howe was also, one of the best in the world to never make a team for Team USA. Just an absolute stud. Andrew Howe almost made the list, just not quite. Vincenzo Joseph only got to wrestle in the NCAA tournament 3 times. COVID cut his career short, didn't get that 4th NCAA finals appearance, but he did make the finals 3 times. He won it twice. He was one of the few guys to beat Isaiah Martinez, and he did it 2 times in the NCAA finals. Gotta give hats off to Vincenzo Joseph, one of the most electric wrestlers in NCAA wrestling history at 165. Just a big move wrestler, super fun to watch, and just a real standout star for Penn State during kind of that first half of Cael Sanderson's coaching career for the Nittany Lions. Vincenzo Joseph only got 3 NCAA tournament appearances. Keegan O'Toole got 5, and in his 5 years for the Missouri Tigers, Keegan O'Toole only lost 5 times. This guy made the NCAA finals 3 times. He won it twice, 5-time All-American, finishing 3rd or better in all 5 appearances. And by the way, made the NCAA finals as a senior on a torn ACL. Keegan O'Toole, absolute legend, and still somehow didn't make the top 4 at 165. That brings us to the top 4 at 165 pounds. And these are some real legends of the sport, not just at 165, but overall, and not just at college, but for Team USA. In chronological order, we got to start with Jordan Burroughs. His true freshman year was not great for him. He didn't place his 149-pounder, but then he came back at 149 and entered the toughest NCAA tournament bracket of all time. At least that's what we decided. We made a film about it. 149 pounds. Jordan Burroughs was an All-American in that weight class, and it was really in that NCAA tournament that you could see this guy was going to be something special. When Jordan Burroughs came back at 157, he was undefeated, had I think 22 bonus point victories, real dominator, and won his first of 2 NCAA titles. And then Jordan Burroughs' season at 165, really that was where he came back after an injury, and he was priming himself to get ready for 74 kilos, where he would obviously go on to have an incredible run. But Jordan Burroughs' senior year, he was 36-0, 33 bonus point victories, one of the greatest and most dominant NCAA seasons that we've ever seen. Jordan Burroughs was an absolute legend, and that's why he won the Hodge Trophy his senior year. Of course, you already know Jordan Burroughs went on to win the most Olympic and world gold medals of any American. He's got 7. He's got 10 medals overall. Jordan Burroughs belongs on this list, and, really strong case to be number 1. The next guy in chronological order on this list, Kyle Dake, 4-time NCAA champion at 4 different weight classes. Getting that done as a true freshman is insane, but what he did his 4th year for Cornell at 165 was the stuff of legends, because not only did Kyle Dake move up to try to win his 4th NCAA title at a 4th different weight class, he knew that to do it, he was going to have to take out David Taylor, who was the reigning Hodge Trophy winner and the reigning champ at 165 pounds. And oh, by the way, one of his closest friends in wrestling. Not only did Kyle Dake beat David Taylor, he did it 3 times that year. He beat him at the NWCA All-Star Classic, he beat him in the Southern Scuffle Finals, and then ultimately in the NCAA Finals. Kyle Dake, he just really demonstrated a ton of guts to go up and beat David Taylor the way that he did, and that's why he's on this list. Absolutely one of the best 165-pounders of the last quarter century. By the way, Kyle Dake went on internationally to win 4 world titles and 7 world and Olympic medals overall. 2-time Olympic bronze medalist. Kyle Dake is still making an impact for Team USA. He was this close at Final X. Kyle Dake, absolute legend. The next guy on this list of the top 4 in chronological order, it's David Taylor. We just talked about him in relation to Kyle Dake, and while he did lose to Dake, he also was one of the most dominant wrestlers ever in NCAA wrestling history. This guy only lost 3 times for Penn State. 2 of them were to Dake. The other was in the NCAA Finals. He was a 4-time NCAA finalist, a 2-time champ, and his 2 NCAA title seasons were both Hodge Trophy seasons. He's got a Hodge Trophy for each hand. David Taylor, an absolute dominator, and you already know he's gone on internationally to be an Olympic gold medalist. He's a 4-time world and Olympic champ and a 6-time medalist. David Taylor, now the head coach at Oklahoma State, one of the best 165-pounders of the last 25 years. The 4th finalist of the last quarter century at 165 pounds is Alex Daringer. He had a 97.1% winning percentage. This guy won almost all the time. He is also, by the way, the only 3-time NCAA champion on this list. Kyle Dake, of course, a 4-timer. But everybody else behind Dake and Daringer only won 2 titles. Alex Daringer won a Hodge Trophy of his own to cap off his career. One of the best winners for the Oklahoma State Cowboys in history. In fact, he has the 2nd most wins of all time for the legendary Cowboy program. Alex Daringer, many weights, he would win. But in this case, he's behind some serious stars. Alex Daringer definitely, though, belongs in the top 4 on this list at 165. So we got to get into the results. And man, this was by far the toughest weight class for our team to rank. We had a lot of internal debates, and ultimately this came down to the fan vote for the top spot. 3rd and 4th were a little more clear, though. Coming in 4th place at 165, Oklahoma State's Alex Daringer. He was pretty clearly 4th, but man, that's nothing to sneeze at given the level of competition he was up against. Alex Daringer for the Cowboys. What a beast. This guy, just can't say enough good things about Alex Daringer. Coming in at 3rd, somehow a 2-time Hodge Trophy winner, David Taylor, only finishing in 3rd place at 165. That just speaks to the level that we're witnessing here in this weight class over the last 25 years. But it's David Taylor, your 3rd place winner at 165. All right, so that brings us to our final 2, and I've already mentioned it, but 165 pounds, the top 2 were almost impossible to parse. Separating Jordan Burroughs and Kyle Dake was just very, very challenging because the two did very different things, but also very incredible things. Jordan Burroughs had one of the most dominant seasons his senior year, and obviously that set the stage for him to go on an incredible international run. Kyle Dake, the only ever wrestler to win 4 titles at 4 weights. How do you split those two up? How do you decide who's 1 and who's 2? Well, our team had trouble. We were basically dead even internally. And so it really did come down to you guys, the fans. This is the first weight class where I can honestly say that you guys, the fans, were the deciding vote in who was 1 and who was 2. So that brings us to our second place finisher at 165. It's Jordan Burroughs. Hard for me to say because I actually voted Burroughs number 1, but it was that close. Jordan Burroughs, the legendary season that he had his senior year wasn't quite enough to get him over the hump. And so now you guys already know your first place finisher at 165 of the last quarter century is Kyle Dake. Honestly, if you're trying to decide between Burroughs and Dake, maybe it came down to that freshman year where Jordan Burroughs wrestled as a true freshman, took some lumps. Kyle Dake wrestled as a true freshman and won an NCAA title. It could have come down to that. How insane that to decide the best 165 pounder of the last 25 years, we might be looking at Kyle Dake's first year at 141 and Jordan Burroughs' first year at 149. Maybe that was it. I don't know. You guys, the fans, really ultimately decided, though. It was Kyle Dake, number 1 at 165. And there you have it. Toughest weight class goes to Dake. Hats off to Kid Dynamite for just an absolutely legendary NCAA career in this last 25 years. Also, don't forget to keep it locked to FloWrestling all week long because it's Fargo week. Saturday and Sunday, you got girls freestyle. Monday through Wednesday, you've got boys freestyle. And then finishing it off at the end with Greco-Roman at the end of the week. There's going to be so much good wrestling. And of course, next week, 174 all quarter century team will be decided. Keep it locked on FloWrestling all summer long.